Hey there, welcome back everyone. This is Ari Whitten and welcome back to the Energy Blueprint podcast. Today I have with me Dr. Jack Wolfson, who is a board certified cardiologist and a fellow of the American College of Cardiology. And he's one of the world's leading holistic natural cardiologists. He was a Natural Choice Award winner in the Holistic MD category from Natural Awakenings magazines. And he's been featured on major media outlets, USA Today, NBC, CNN, the Wall Street Journal, and so on. And he's also known as the Paleo Cardiologist. I brought him on. I'm very excited to have him on to talk about all things kind of holistic cardiology. So welcome, Jack.
Thank you so much, Ari. It's a pleasure to be on. And, when you kind of talk about me being one of the best holistic cardiologists around, I certainly agree with that, but there's also not a lot in the way of competition, right? I left a group of 40 cardiologists that were in my former practice, of which I was a senior partner over there, and not one of them had any interest in a holistic mindset and talking about nutrition or lifestyle or even evidence-based supplements. It just was all about pills and procedures. I definitely, think that, the holistic cardiology is on, and there are some of us, and we go through training and we speak with each other, and kind of a lot of us know who we are. I guess the other thing is that I do get more and more phone calls these days from conventional cardiologists looking to switch over, looking to learn what I know. So I think that's certainly a positive.
Yeah, for sure. So with that in mind, how did you actually get into doing that? How did you get into holistic and integrative cardiology when you're being brought up in a medical paradigm that is really not that at all?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I've told the story, of course, many times from the stage. And when I finished up my training in 2002, I moved out to Arizona, started in practice, and I was in practice for a few years. I saw a lot of sickness in the hospitals and a lot of frustration where people just come into the hospital, we tune them up, we put them on pharmaceuticals, then they get discharged and they come back in a few weeks later. With similar complaints, or someone's on 4 blood pressure drugs and their blood pressure is still high, and you're throwing your hands up in the air and saying, why is this happening? And around that same time, I also witnessed the demise of my father. My father was a very successful cardiologist in Chicago, and he passed away at the age of 62 from a Parkinson's-like illness. And so I saw what was going on with my father, and even the doctors at the Mayo Clinic had no idea. I saw what was going on in my practice. And then I meet this woman who I was introduced to. And I meet this woman, and for one thing, she's very attractive, and she's very fit and had a lot of similar interest to me as far as outdoor activities and stuff like that. And she's a doctor of chiropractic. So she starts telling me about all these different things, like the pharmaceuticals are killing people and our procedures are dangerous and worthless, and basically to become a DC, a doctor of cause, and figure out why these people have these issues. And she's saying all this stuff to me, and Ari, it was like our first date when she was dropping these bombshells on us. And I started to listen. One, I saw my father, two, the practice, and what she said made perfect sense. And I started to read, started to learn, started going to conferences, started to change my own practice, and then opened up my own practice in Arizona in 2012, Wolfson Integrative Cardiology. Together, my wife and I are the doctors Wolfson, and the rest is history.
Awesome. I love that. I want to interject a little thing here, which is that I actually spent a couple years in medical school myself. I went to, I thought I wanted to be an MD, and so did all my pre-med stuff, went to school to become an MD, and then basically realized I hated it from the first week, and literally was on the phone with my family every week going, I hate it here. I want to come home. And the reason why was that I had spent the previous 10 years studying nutrition. My older brother was a personal trainer and then became a chiropractor. So I was heavily influenced by those paradigms. I'd already been studying nutrition for a decade at that point. Was a personal trainer, nutritionist. That was my wheelhouse: holistic health, natural health. And then I went to medical school, and all of a sudden next thing I know, I'm in the hospital seeing patients with heart disease and diabetes, which I knew were diseases of lifestyle. And here I am in medical school receiving zero education I mean, literally no classes whatsoever on nutrition, no classes whatsoever on the lifestyle factors that actually cause and contribute to these diseases. And seeing people in the hospital, you know, as I'm shadowing the physicians there who are treating people with these conditions, these diseases of lifestyle, and just prescribing them one drug after another after another. I mean, seeing obese people with heart disease literally on 15 or 18 different prescription medications who are being taught nothing about nutrition and lifestyle. And for me, that, you know, having studied that stuff for a decade already, it was just madness. I mean, it was literally insane to be in that situation. And it became intolerable to me. And at a certain point I said, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm going to go help people the way that I think is right to help people. I don't want to be a part of this paradigm.
Did you think at all about going to chiropractic school? I mean, you must have.
You know, I did. My older brother is a chiropractor, and is a very good one. But there's something interesting there too, which is that so much of the conventional thinking around really brands chiropractic as nonsense and quackery, and doesn't look at it as a prestigious thing. And so to some extent I was like, well, you know, why am I going to go bust my butt to go get this credential, which is ultimate. It's not this prestigious thing where like people are going to look at me as like, wow, he has this credential. It now becomes a source of, you know, where people can point to me and say, oh, he's a chiropractor, you know, he's a quack. He's one of those.
Well, you know, one of my passions certainly is to bring awareness of chiropractic to the world. And to me, the doctor of chiropractic should be the primary care provider. Like whenever you think of something that's going on, you just don't feel right, or you're fatigued, or digestion, or autoimmune, you have a rash, you have a fever, whatever it is, I like to think of as the chiropractor as the person you go see first. Now, the world needs more chiropractors that are adjusting 100 people a day, but the world needs more functional chiropractors. And I'm not sure how your brother practices. I think obviously if you had gotten into that space, and I'm not trying to push you into it, Ari, that's for sure. You know, you're very successful and you're on purpose and your mission and all that stuff. You know, but the world needs more chiropractors that are seeing 10 to 15 people a day, adjusting them, but also talking about the lifestyle, what I call the chiropractic lifestyle. And maybe that's similar to the paleo lifestyle. I know that the pediatricians have it wrong. I know that the general internists and the family practitioners, the MDs, and even the DOs, they just don't have it right. You know, it's the doctor of chiropractic, not all of them, but let's try and get them really to assume that role. And I think it's really their calling to do so. And I'm here to, you know, to promote them to that. And I've just seen both sides, right? I've seen the medical side. I've seen the, you know, the natural side. And Ari, I'm sure you can appreciate this. How cool would it be on that first day of medical school if they would have said to us, hey, listen, we've got you for 4 years. We've got all your money. We got all your time. We're going to teach you all these drugs and all these different procedures and all this sickness and make you memorize 20 different forms of hepatitis. But we want you to understand that everything health-wise, every ill health is because of poor nutrition and environmental pollutants. Wouldn't that be so cool if they would have just preempted everything and just put it all in perspective? I would have found it amazing because I was raised in a drug family. Like I said, my father was a cardiologist. I never had any natural inkling, you know, like you, and spent 10 years. I didn't do any of that stuff. I just went straight through the whole system. And it's deplorable. And people ask me now, they're like, well, you know what, I'm into nutrition, I'm into health and wellness, you know, but I want to be a medical doctor. And I'm gonna, you know, I'll take, you know, from them what I can, and then I'll treat people naturally. I'm like, what a waste of time and money. You don't need to learn their stuff. They need to learn our stuff. Yeah,
100%. And it sounds almost audacious to say that, but it's 100% true. I mean, you know, again, it is literally insane to have this enormous burden of chronic disease, epidemics of various chronic diseases that are diseases of lifestyle, and then to be educating millions of physicians and taking them through 4 years of medical school and literally not having them go through a single class on nutrition or lifestyle. I mean, it is literally the height of insanity. And I hope people listening can get a sense of that.
I went through 4 years of medical school, 3 years of internal medicine, 3 years of cardiology. That's 10 years after college. I was in training and we never talked about any of it. We never talked about nutrition. We never talked about sleep and the importance of sunshine and relaxation and yoga and meditation and Tai Chi. The only time we would ever talk about any of those modalities would be to make fun of them.
It's a bunch of woo-woo quackery with no science behind it. Only the drugs have science.
When people laugh about my book and they're like, yeah, Wolfson was this, good cardiologist that met this chiropractor and he went off the deep end and then he wrote this book, the Paleo Cardiologist, and he's crazy. I have 300 references in my book. So if you're insulting me, you're insulting all of the people that wrote the original literature, the MDs and the PhDs who wrote the original stuff. Ari, you're not inventing, much these days. You have, your concepts I think are fantastic and really game-changing stuff, and the information's great. But what we're talking about really is just commonsensical things that, most of it has evidence for it. And if it doesn't, it's just common sense. Should we eat like our ancestors did for millions of years? Yeah, that makes sense. The sky's blue, we breathe air, and we eat, our ancestral foods, and that's how it rolls.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I want to get into some cardiology specific stuff with you, because we have this, this weird history around cardiology and kind of different paradigms and conceptualizations of the causes and best treatments for heart disease. And there's so much controversy and debate. Even today, as of 2017, there's still quite a bit of debate and controversy over a lot of these concepts. I have another friend who's a holistic cardiologist, Dr. Joel Kahn, who I'm sure you know of. I'm sure that you even have some ideas that probably he would not necessarily agree with, or vice versa. I don't know to what extent you guys are exactly on the same page, but some of these ideas I think are still controversial. Am I right about that?
Yeah, no, certainly there's controversy between holistic and of course the medical side, and even amongst the holistic cardiologists. And I do know Joel very well, and Joel is a very smart, very funny, very well-read cardiologist. I think of him as like an older brother. Joel is great. I think he's mistaken on the best nutrition plan, and Joel is a vegan cardiologist. And then, not to pick on Joel, the other place I would differ from Joel is that he's a fan of doing a screening CT scan looking for coronary artery disease and coronary calcification. I am anti-radiation, anti-CT scanning. I think we can get it from different places, but bless Joel. He's trained a lot of doctors. He's a good man. But so even amongst the holistic doctors, a lot of controversy. You get the vegan crowd, you get the keto crowd, you get the paleo crowd, Mediterranean diet. Then you get, of course, the guidelines that come down from the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association that are totally fraudulent and owned by big pharmaceutical companies and big ag that want us to be sick. So there's, to me, once again, it just comes down to, what have we been doing for millions of years? Why reinvent the wheel? Eat tons of vegetables, eat free-range grass-fed meat, eat wild seafood, eat nuts, seeds, eggs, avocados, coconuts, olives, and eat some fruit, not too much. Eat lots of spices, eat some organ meats whenever possible, eat fermented foods. Those are the basics. And, but I do think that the vegan is definitely deficient in, obviously, omega-3, DHA, EPA, and, we test their levels and they're deficient in that. They're deficient in B12, deficient in certain amino acids. Once again, Ari, why try and reinvent what we've been doing for millions of years?
Yeah. So let's dig into some of the specifics here. I think let's start with just the whole idea of cholesterol as being the cause of heart disease. A lot of people are still operating under this notion of cholesterol is the cause of heart disease, or more specifically LDL. So, and I know that there's a lot of controversy specifically on this point of kind of the role of LDL or different, kind of subtypes of LDL. what's the deal there? What does the evidence actually say as far as the role of cholesterol and LDL in heart disease?
Well, and I talked about this. I mean, I made this chapter 1 in my book because I want everyone to understand the truth about cholesterol. And obviously, they're not going to get it from their medical doctor. It's just, cholesterol. When you stand up in front of a crowd, right? You're speaking to them, or you're on a podcast, and anyone who's listening to us now or watching us now, when you think of cholesterol, what do you think about? What comes to your mind? Typically, what comes to most people's mind when I'm speaking in a crowd is, heart attack, stroke. Cheesy yellow plaque that's blocking up my arteries, dying. That's what they think about when they think about cholesterol. And what I teach, of course, is that cholesterol is necessary in our body. That's why our body makes it. That's why every animal species on Earth makes cholesterol. So it's doing it for a reason. There are no mistakes in the human body. The human body only reacts to its environment is how that rolls. So cholesterol is very important. And of course, cholesterol travels around the body on a bus, and that bus is the LDL. And there's also HDL buses and VLDL buses and all these different other lipoprotein carriers. So when the testicles want to make more testosterone, or the ovaries want to make more estrogen, they call out to the liver and say, hey, send down more cholesterol, so that LDL bus takes off and brings cholesterol down to the ovaries and testes and whatever else, wherever else it needs to go to get the job done. So once again, we need cholesterol, we need LDL. We want to make sure we have good quality LDLs. We want to make sure we get measured for LDL particle number, particle size, what I call kind of state of the art, 2018 testing, as opposed to the 1970s technology, right? Like, when my dad was in training, and in the 1970s, that was the testing that was available: total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, triglycerides. And now we can go so much more advanced to data that really, really tells us what our specific risk is, and then we can do something about that risk. So, cholesterol, once again, cholesterol forms our hormones, cholesterol forms vitamin D, cholesterol is for our digestion, cholesterol is for our brain. It's in every cell membrane. So this is a very, very important molecule that we need. And then, Ari, what I'm all about is, listen, live the right lifestyle, and then you find the perfect lipid level for you. So Ari, you're different from me, and different from Joel, and different from the man on the moon. Everybody's different. And we have to find our perfect numbers, and then we'll function at our best.
Mm-hmm. So does overall LDL, just straight LDL, really tell you a lot? Or do you have to look at some of these subtypes of LDL and particle sizes to really get good insight?
No, you definitely have to look at the particle sizes. The best number to look at, really, when you examine the science, is a ratio. It's called the ApoB, ApoA ratio. And the ApoBs are the stitching, if we transition the LDL from a bus to a baseball, the LDL baseball, the stitching of that is ApoB, and of an HDL is the ApoA stitching. So if you look at the ratio of those two, that B to A ratio, if you have it less than 0.6, you're at the lowest risk amongst the lipids, and that's a much, much, much better indicator than total cholesterol, total LDL, isolated LDL particles. The best ratio is you want that ApoB, ApoA ratio, and that's the most informative. And then, of course, you can look at markers of inflammation and other things to kind of hone in on what your risk is. And then there's supplements and lifestyle things you can do to modify the abnormal lipids. And if the lipids are abnormal, you got to look for, why is that happening? Because once again, the body's doing it for a reason. And the lipid particles, LDLs, HDLs, they're a huge part of the immune system. So if your immune system is in overdrive, you're likely going to have high lipids. So the answer, of course, is not to take statin drugs to lower the number down. The answer is to find out why your immune system is in overdrive.
So you kind of preempted my next question there, but basically, how does your paradigm differ from the conventional paradigm? The conventional paradigm being sort of well, let me put it this way. It sounds to me like you pretty much agree with the conventional paradigm in the sense that these lipid numbers do matter, and they are good indicators of heart disease risk and so on. But where you differ is as far as what should be done about that fact.
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, it's, I would be foolish to say that, total cholesterol, when it's according to the Mr. Fit trial from the 1970s, when total cholesterol is above 260, your risk of dying goes up above 260. When your total cholesterol is below 160, your risk of dying also goes up. So you want to be somewhere in that sweet spot of 160 to 260 on the total cholesterol. And LDL, frankly, anything below 160 on the LDLs, you're typically in a pretty decent category. But once again, you really need those advanced measurements to see where you're at. And that, once again, it identifies risk. And then you're right, what you do with that risk now is where the holistic doctor differs from the medical doctor. But frankly, a lot of medical doctors, right, they don't even care what your lipid number is. They just think, you know what, you're Ari Whitten, you're above 40 years of age, if you truly are, I'm not sure, and take Lipitor, Crestor, Zocor. I mean, that's what they think. It's easiest for them to think that way. It's financially set up for them to think that way. The drug reps want it that way. The American College of Cardiology wants it that way. So the whole system is geared. And that's why I've done videos where I say statin drugs are killing millions of people. Because what happens when people take statin drugs, they are lulled into a false sense of complacency. So their doctor, and I know this because I sat in the room with these guys and I said the same thing. Who cares what you eat? Who cares about your lifestyle? Just take Lipitor and you'll be fine. And that approach is moronic, and that leads to a lot of people dying.
So let's dig into that a bit more for people who may not understand why you say that. Why is that approach moronic? What's wrong with taking, let's say I go to the doctor and I have bad kind of profile of lipids, and they say you're at a high risk of heart disease, let's get you on statins.
Okay.
Why should I not do that?
Great question. So what we know from the statin data is that statins lower your lipid numbers down. That's for sure. Statins work very well to do so. But because they do so, you don't get any awards for having low cholesterol, low LDL. You want to know, if I take this pill, is this going to reduce my chance of having a heart attack, stroke, and dying? And a lot of studies say that there is no mortality benefit for statin drugs, so therefore it doesn't save lives. In fact, there was a recent trial called the All Hat trial that got just about no publicity from the spring of 2017. And I'll be happy to send you the link, Ari, to your people.
Please.
Is that people 75 and older had a 34% higher risk of dying if they took statin drugs.
Wow.
People 65 and older had an 8% higher chance of dying if they took statin drugs. So that was one trial.
Now, is that risk of dying specifically from cardiovascular disease or all cause mortality?
There was all cause mortality, mortality. So what we want to say is that even if we take the best data on statins and we say that statins reduce your risk of having a heart attack, stroke, and dying over the next 4 years, and it takes that risk, for example, from 7% down to 5.5%. Now, the pharmaceutical companies, they look at that and say, hey, look at us. We reduced heart attack risk by 18%. Mm-hmm. The way I look at that is I look at it as a failure, because I know you want people in your tribe not to have a 7% or a 5.5%. We want our tribe at 0%. We know they cannot offer that, and we can, which is a good thing. It's a very empowering thing. And like I said, is that, if all, they do these statin trials on people that are eating McDonald's cookies and cupcakes. These people are not getting the right information. And I think when you and I spread that information through our various avenues, then people are going to learn the truth. And it's very exciting. When it comes to prevention, the medical doctors truly have nothing. They have nothing. Aspirin is not prevention. Statin drugs aren't prevention. Doing stress tests and angiograms, you're not preventing anything. When it comes to prevention, it's all through nutrition and lifestyle.
Yeah, beautiful. So You mentioned kind of you gave this example of the 7% versus 5.5%. I'm aware of kind of a lot of shady stuff that goes on with how they manipulate statistics to sound more impressive. And I think with statins in particular, there's been a lot of stuff that I've read around NNT, number needed to treat. And you get these obscenely high number needed to treat, which and then they kind of manipulate the statistics in a way that it sounds a lot more impressive than it is. Are you familiar with that kind of stuff at all?
Well, there's a lot of different things at play, so certainly what I'm all about, Ari, and also my book, is that I'm not telling people not to take statin drugs. I kind of am, and obviously I intimate that. What I'm telling people is, here's the truth, that if statin drugs take you from here to here, how do we do better than that? So I want to give people the data. And like you said, number needed to treat is a fantastic statistic to be able to get people to understand that if the number needed to treat means that you need to treat, you need 60 people to take a drug for one person to get benefit. And they take that, and those 60 people take the drug every single day for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever the study duration. And you get people to understand that and say, hey, that means 59 out of 60 people didn't get benefit. 1 out of 60 did. And you know what? You may be that 1 out of 60. And if you believe that, then go ahead, take the drug. But if you want a different approach, come to my office, read my book, read natural literature, pay attention to what other people are doing, and you'll be much better off than that 1 in 60. Who wants to take their chances that they're the 1 in 60? I know it's not good enough for me. I saw what happened to my father. I saw what Lipitor did to my father's brain. I've seen a lot of brains damaged from statins. It's unnatural, it is dangerous, and it is not fundamentally, it's not addressing the cause.
Mm-hmm. So, there's still a lot of people that I find kind of are, even if they're more in the natural health community, they still kind of operate in this paradigm of, I got my cholesterol measured and the numbers don't look so good. How do I fix my cholesterol and my LDL? The doctor wants to put me on statins. How do I fix the numbers naturally? And instead, it's still not totally focused on like, how do I actually reduce my risk of heart disease and dying? It's how do I fix the numbers? And I think that, to me, that there's a distinction there that's really important, kind of getting people out of this mindset of like, it's all about fixing the numbers and shifting them more towards focusing on the end point of actually reducing risk of heart disease. But what do you say to someone who comes to you and says, how do I fix my cholesterol numbers naturally? What kinds of natural supplements can I take to fix these numbers?
Yep. Well, I think there's a lot of different things that do it to, once again, find your perfect paleo numbers or caveman cholesterol. And, it starts with eating the right foods. When you eat the right foods, good gut health, no more leaky gut, all those kind of things. So eat the right foods, getting sleep. Our ancestors went to sleep with the sun down and awoke with the sunrise, something that is so foreign to most people now, that artificial light that we are all in and all bathing in is just absolutely destroying body function, elevates lipids, etc., leads to inflammation. And then when our ancestors were not sleeping, they were awake and they were in the sunshine and they were naked. So for anyone who's listening, think about the last time you were naked in the sun. And if you want to tell that story, write it and send it in to Ari, and let Ari can read the stories about you being naked in the sun. And it's really cool because right before cholesterol becomes cholesterol, it is something known as 7-dehydroxycholesterol. And that 7-dehydroxycholesterol is coursing through the body and coursing through the capillaries of the skin. And when the sun hits that 7-dehydroxycholesterol, it turns it into vitamin D. So a lot of times, elevated cholesterol is actually a sunshine deficiency. So what we want to do is we want to get people into the sun. Now, people live in upstate New York and they come to see me from Minnesota and from Canada, and they say, Dr. Wolfson, what do I do? I live in upstate New York, Minnesota, Canada. What do I do? And I say, move to Arizona. It's sunny in Arizona 450 days a year. It's sunny here at night. I mean, that's my best answer, right, Ari? I mean,
Yeah.
and we clearly know that the data shows that people that live closest to the equator have the lowest total cholesterol. People that live at elevation and tend to get more sunshine and more unobstructed UVA, UVB to make a transformation from 7-dehydroxy into vitamin D. Once again, elevation leads to lower cholesterol levels. People closest to the equator have the lowest cardiovascular risk for a multitude of reasons, but one of those reasons may be, once again, because they're making all that vitamin D from the sunshine instead of excess cholesterol. Relaxation, sleep, physical activity obviously improves the lipid profile. And then, there's a lot of different evidence-based supplements that work, and whether or not it's the original statin drug, which is red yeast rice, which I don't use a lot of. I don't use a lot of time-release niacin to modify the panel. One of my big favorites is something known as berberine. And I'm sure you're very familiar with berberine. Berberine's been studied by the Chinese for 75 years. It does some amazing things as far as activating certain enzymes that help to improve lipid numbers, that help to control blood sugar. There's over 400 studies on PubMed about how berberine kills cancer, how it's very good for the gastrointestinal tract. Berberine actually has been shown to heal leaky gut. So there's a lot of things we could do. And of course, adding fiber to the diet. Another one of my favorites, Ari, is spirulina. Spirulina has been studied in randomized clinical trials to lower total cholesterol by 47 points.
Mm-hmm.
So you and I are just talking about how it's not about, don't lower your numbers, don't lower your numbers. It's about, you may be deficient in these natural forms of algae, such as chlorella and spirulina, and kelp, and on. You need to be eating those things. So go ahead and eat those things. And therefore your lipids will find where they need to be. Fiber foods and organic India psyllium husk, powder is a good binder of lipids in the gut. If you're trying to maximize your panel, say, listen, I follow the energy blueprint. I follow it 95% of the time. I can't get that last 5%. And because of that, I've got some abnormal numbers. How do I modify the numbers? That's where evidence-based supplements supplement a healthy lifestyle.
Right. Gotcha. And one thing I'll add to that is, when you start to do a lot of these things that you're recommending, whether sun exposure, exercise, nutritional interventions, sleep interventions, supplements like spirulina or things of that nature, there's a qualitative difference with these compared to, let's say, statins or other prescription drugs, in that with the prescription drugs, we have a list of potential negative side effects that co-occur with those things. When you start doing lifestyle interventions and nutritional interventions and sleep interventions, you also get side effects, but they're positive side effects. They're things, you have a host of other beneficial things that co-occur with the changes in lipid numbers. Whereas with statins, you have maybe changes in lipid numbers, but then you have to worry about, is it going to damage my mitochondria? Is it going to deplete CoQ10? Am I going to be one of those people that suffer neurological issues or muscle weakness, and all, on and on and on. So, I think there's a point to emphasize there about this, just kind of a fundamental difference between natural lifestyle interventions versus drug interventions.
Yeah, most certainly. Like you said, because there's no evidence to say that statins, cure cancer or prevent Alzheimer's or prevent this and that. When you're eating the right foods and you're living the right lifestyle, that's where you prevent everything else. You prevent heart disease, cancer, autoimmune disease, brain disease, you name it. And it's very exciting. And, once again, for doctors like myself and Joel Kahn and Mickey Dangovian, and obviously Stephen Sinatra is the, kind of one of the founding fathers of holistic cardiology. Once again, we know the other side, and we know the other side to be an abysmal failure. And, this is where, we can make some major difference. I mean, think about, someone who's in the acute phase. Let me tell you this. I was doing a podcast with someone else a few months ago, and he's got a huge following, and he's like, chiropractors. I hate when chiropractors call themselves real doctors. Like, if you're on an airplane and someone needs a doctor, like a chiropractor, shouldn't raise their hand. Like, if a person on a plane's having a heart attack, they want a cardiologist like you, right, Dr. Jack? And I'm like, oh my God, you're throwing chiropractic under the bus. I just told you my wife is a chiropractor, and now you're like, all my good friends, I lost all my medical buddies. Now they're all chiropractors. Now you're insulting them all. And if it was Heather, my wife, Ari, she would have jumped through Skype or Zoom and like strangled this guy. She would have strangled him. And I'm like, no, what? He's got a big following. Let me try and put this a different way. If someone's having a heart attack on a plane, what can Jack Wolfson do as a cardiologist? Nothing. What am I going to do? I'm going to call 911. Hey, land the plane soon so we can get them to an. What am I going to do? Yet a doctor of chiropractic can adjust that person. Cervical adjustment, thoracic adjustment. And by doing so, you can influence autonomic tone, parasympathetics, sympathetics. If you can decrease sympathetic, increase parasympathetic, maybe that blood vessel will open up a little bit. Maybe that blood vessel will now open up, so now blood gets through and you avert a major heart attack. So when I told that to the podcaster, he was kind of blown away. He was like, wow, I never really thought of it that way. And I do. So I think, once again, that there's so many different avenues, that have evidence, whether it's yoga or it's massage, different relaxation techniques, chiropractic, all these different things that we can do to really keep the body healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple more specifics I want to ask you about where there's a lot of confusion and debate. Dietary cholesterol and saturated fats. So, and these are two separate issues, but these have often been connected with cholesterol levels and ultimately heart disease. And I know a lot of the vegan docs are still very opposed to consumption of dietary cholesterol, egg yolks, and red meat and saturated fat from animal foods and so on, and really still kind of preach that these things are contributors to heart disease. Whereas we have, kind of a lot of the people in the low carb and the keto movements and those spaces saying, oh, all that stuff is nonsense. It's already been debunked. And, none of it's true. And none of that's, butter is a superfood and just makes you healthier and doesn't contribute to heart disease in any way. So
right.
What's going on there? What's your take on that whole thing?
Well, listen, I think, once again, what's worked for millions of years will work for us now. And, people talk about being plant-based. Well, I'm plant-based too. I've got a paleo pyramid, and on my paleo pyramid in my book, the foundation is vegetables. I eat vegetables for breakfast. I do greens drinks every morning. So does my wife, so do my two boys. I do an organic beetroot powder every day, and beetroot is a natural nitrate, which just turns into nitric oxide and opens up blood vessels. And I have vegetables for my lunch and vegetables with my dinner, and love vegetables. But the reality is we do need to eat certainly seafood, and certainly some free-range grass-fed meats would be appropriate for any diet. I think the problem, once again, is sugar. I think the problem is all the heavy carbs. And I've got, thousands of patients to prove it. And I do the most advanced lab testing in the world, and we get people on appropriate paleo nutrition. And if you want to call it paleo or primal, it's kind of, some of it is similar to keto. When you eat the diet of our ancestors, you will do very well. There's no way, how could a coconut be unhealthy? I mean, it makes no sense. A coconut has so much nutrition. An avocado is loaded with fat. How can that be unhealthy? Olives, everybody knows olives are healthy. The Mediterranean people, the Mediterranean diet is the most proven out of any of them, and it's loaded with olives and olive oil. Yet you have people that continue to profess this low fat starvation diet, and the world is full of recovering vegans. It's just not appropriate. Now, Ari, listen, I donate a lot of money. My wife and I donate a lot of money to animal charities, animal rescues. I got my dog right here next to me, my rescue lab mix. We love animals, but if we're having a conversation about the ultimate way to health, about our appropriate ancestral diet, it is by eating the foods that our ancestors did, and those are paleo foods. But listen, there's American Journal of Clinical Nutrition 2010, another review in 2014. These are reviews with hundreds of thousands of patients that say it has nothing to do, heart disease has nothing to do with saturated fat. Breast milk is loaded with saturated fat. Are we trying to kill babies? If it's good for a baby, why isn't it good for me? I'm not advocating adults drink drink breast milk, but I'm talking about saturated fat. So there's, I don't see in any way, shape, or form how fish, seafood, free-range grass-fed meats are the problem. I think the problem are all the processed carbs and all the sugars. And I think a lot of vegan people agree with that as well. But if you look at like the engine number 2 and the firefighter and Caldwell Esselstyn and stuff like that, I mean, they're just putting together packaged crap full of artificial, ingredients and synthetic processed foods, and it's just not healthy. And once you got to get the patients to prove it.
Yeah, 100%. I think, for the people with integrity, everybody's pretty much in agreement that processed stuff is problematic, and we need to move towards whole foods. And then there's some debate about, what kinds of whole foods to include or not include. What's your take on processed fats? And, there's a lot of people in the keto movement now who are consuming large amounts of refined fats and oils, and in quite large doses that would be that are not typical of any like known hunter-gatherer tribe that has been studied. Just as an example, if some of these keto people are advocating diets that are 70 or 80% fat, and as far as the macronutrient ratio, there isn't a population on Earth that eats anywhere close to that. Even the Inuit don't even eat. They're maxing out at 50% fat. So I'm curious what your take is on kind of the keto movement as well.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that there's some interesting benefits, to keto, but I think you can achieve those same benefits if you follow paleo. Just as much as, high carb is not the answer, that extreme high fat is not the answer either. I think it's a sexy idea. I think it may be okay for, once again, a cleanse or a detox. But spooning in processed fats, unnatural fats, I don't believe that's the answer. Listen, when I was a cardiology fellow in 2000, I heard the debate between Dean Ornish, a low-fat guy, and Robert Atkins, a low-carb guy. And Atkins did have a lot of that in him as well, as far as, spooning in, soybean oil, and he had no idea as far as organic and quality and all those things. So I think that, once again, if you fill yourself up full of vegetables, eat some wild seafood, eat the free-range grass-fed meats, find what works for you perfectly. I think that's the best way, to do it. And finally, what I talk about in my book is that no matter what diet you follow, make it organic. So even if you get off, this podcast and you're like, wow, Ari and Jack were just talking about ice cream, fine. Go get organic, free-range grass-fed Strauss's ice cream. Go, if you're, chocolate's your thing, go eat organic chocolate. If you drink coffee, go drink organic coffee. All these things, you get everything you love, but none of the chemicals. And I think that makes a big difference. But when I was speaking at Paleo Effects, a couple of years ago, and I'm talking to some of these people or listening to these other lecturers, and they're just like, food quality doesn't matter. It's just, you can go to, Sizzler and have a steak, or you can have, Burger King, double Whopper, hold the bun. And I'm, that's just, I'm not even anywhere near that. We're all about organic. I'm always organic. I'm always gluten-free. I'm always soy-free. I think that's a pretty good lesson. Some of these vegan people that are cool with eating wheat and stuff like that, I do leaky gut panels on people every single day. I find gluten sensitivity in 2/3 of my people. I find leaky gut. I find, vegan people with leaky gut, with inflammation, and obviously no levels of omega DHA, and it's a problem.
Yeah. So we've kind of delved into a lot of specifics here around heart disease specifically. I would love to have you maybe paint the full picture of kind of the I would say like your whole vision of maybe all the causes or all of the major causes of heart disease. And, if you want to go even more broad, like most chronic disease. And I know that there are certain things that I've heard you talk about elsewhere, things like heavy metals and toxins in the environment. And what does that whole picture look like? And how does it contrast to the conventional view of the causes of heart disease?
Well, when I started going through the medical literature to write my book, and I wrote a chapter called Heavy Metal Madness, and I talk about lead and mercury and arsenic and cadmium and aluminum, and I talk about the danger that they present, and I open up the medical literature, and it's all over the place. There's so many studies that talk about these toxic metals and cardiovascular risk, heart attacks, strokes, heart failure, you name it. And it was like, well, why aren't any of the cardiologists talking about this? When I go to the national meetings or I sit in a boardroom with my partners in the old practice, why aren't we talking about this? And it's just because there's nothing for us to do about it, right? There's, cardiologists, it's, this doesn't, there's nothing I can do about it. The treatment of it doesn't make me any money. So why bother? And, once you start reading about things like BPA and phthalates and other environmental pollutants and toxins, and you're just blown away at what this does as far as, causing problems. And so that's kind of, what I do in my practice. It's not, I wrote the book, The Paleo Cardiologist. It's 17 chapters, and only 2 of which have to do with nutrition. The rest is about environmental pollutants. The rest is about, getting appropriate sleep. People that don't sleep appropriately have, people that sleep 6 hours and less have a much higher risk of heart attack and stroke. People that, once again, don't get sunshine. You don't make vitamin D. You don't get sunshine. You don't make melatonin. You don't get sunshine. You don't make nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is, stored in the skin in the form of nitrate, and then the sun hits it and it gets converted into nitric oxide, the body's main vasodilator. Stress. I have a whole chapter, called One Nation Under Prozac. Sorry to keep mentioning my book, but hey, what the hell, right? It's One Nation Under Prozac, and it's all about how everybody is just inundated with these drugs. The drugs don't work, and when you have mental health issues, stress, anger, anxiety, depression, those markedly accelerate your cardiovascular risk. And once again, the answer is not some SSRI pharmaceutical. The answer is trying to get that out of your life as much as possible, and then give your body the nutrients it needs to get the job done.
Yeah, well said. And I think to contrast this with the conventional paradigm seems to be mostly like, well, we know that these lipid profiles can cause or contribute to heart disease. And then for the most part, they seem to not be all that interested in the causes of those abnormal lipid profiles, or really kind of spend a lot of time talking about that, from what I can gather. And then it seems to be, let's take a statin drug to modify the lipid profiles, and then by virtue of modifying that, we will have lowered your risk of heart disease. Whereas what you're saying is, well, let's look at the causes of those abnormal lipid profiles and the causes of heart disease mortality, and let's address those causes and fix all of those factors, with this comprehensive nutrition and lifestyle kind of overhaul. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, the cardiologist thinks, once again, that we are born already deficient in statin drugs. Heart disease is a statin drug deficiency and an aspirin deficiency, and cancer is a deficiency of chemotherapy. And anxiety, stress, depression is a deficiency in SSRIs and Prozac. And obviously that's not true. I mean, and another thing that bothers me is when people talk about genetics and they say, oh, well, I have a family history. Well, everybody's got a family history of cancer, heart disease, and dementia these days. Everybody does. We're built pretty darn perfectly, right? Evolution has given us amazing things, where you and I can see and touch and feel and run and jump, and we can do all these amazing things. Why would we be genetically programmed to have a heart attack or to have cancer? It makes no sense at all, and we're the only animal species where this happens. One of my favorite kind of go-to things is the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks. And Tom Hanks, as you know, he works for FedEx. He's in a plane crash. He winds up on the island with the volleyball Wilson. And all he does on that island is eat coconuts, fish, get sunshine, and get sleep. And I think that if we all lived on that island, with a fresh, clean environment, no environmental toxins, we're eating the right foods, we're getting the sunshine, we're getting the sleep, we're physically active, we would live forever. We would live forever. The genetic theory is a failure. That in the mid 90s, when I was going through my medical training and everybody talked about, the Human Genome Project, and we're going to learn all this stuff. Yeah, what we learned is that it's not genetics. It's all about how the environment influences our genetics. You know all that as well. Mm-hmm. And still 90+% of medical doctors don't understand a freaking word that you and I are saying right now. They just don't get it. And certainly they refuse to get it as well.
Yeah. There's one more point I want to add to that, which is a lot of people who are maybe outside of the kind of holistic and integrative health world perceive things to be this kind of black and white thing where MDs are in possession of the real science, and they're the ones who are really like doing true science when it comes to health, and whose work is actually based on the scientific evidence. And then everybody else, talking about nutrition and lifestyle and all this kind of stuff, that's all quackery. It's all alternative. There isn't really science there. And hopefully what people can gather from listening to this is there actually is a huge amount of evidence on nutritional factors and how that relates to not just heart disease, but lots of different diseases, on sleep and circadian rhythm, on psychological stress and interventions for psychological stress, on sunshine, on all of these different lifestyle factors, on heavy metals. And there actually is a huge amount of evidence. It's not just speculation and quackery. It's just all evidence that has been disconnected from conventional medicine. They are not educated in any of that, for the most part, that educated in that science, or they're not learning about those things and learning what to do about them. They're just in a totally different paradigm that is disconnected from all of those bodies of evidence that is all about, the main tools in their tool belt, which are drugs and surgery.
Yeah, and I think that's the beautiful thing of, about what you're doing and getting the information out there, to the world, and letting people know, hey, there's another way to do this. And I think people are getting educated, they're getting smart, and they're learning the truth. And they're learning the facts, like I said, about statin drugs and the minimal benefit, if anything, that they provide. And, and fundamentally, if you want to go totally conspiracy, I mean, listen, there's billions and billions of dollars to be made in this realm of pharmaceuticals. So, when you're talking about such little differences in benefit, is it possible some of the data is fraudulent? And I've done medical studies, and it's real simple to change one box here, one box there to go along with what your wishes are. And if you're a manager of a of $1 trillion, $500 million or $500 billion pharmaceutical company, I mean, this is big business, and you better get good results, or publish good results. Studies that are done now with some of these trials, I mean, there are 10,000 people in the trial. We're not going to have any trial comparing that to Zocor to berberine. It's not going to happen. Aspirin versus nattokinase, or my lifestyle versus someone else's lifestyle. It's not going to happen. So but there is tons of evidence out there. All you have to do is open up a book. All you have to do is open up PubMed.gov and go search some of these things. And just like I was blown away by all the information that's there, so will everybody else.
Yeah, I would love to. On that note, I would love to see a study with somebody, with a nutrition and lifestyle intervention compared to just somebody put on a statin drug or kind of the typical, array of different prescription drugs that someone with a bad lipid profile might be prescribed. And to my knowledge, no study like that exists.
Yeah, it's when you do studies like that, it can be difficult as far as all the different confounding factors that are there. But I mean, let's just take it back to the school of common sense. And if people don't want to believe common sense and they don't want to believe the evolutionary lifestyle, well then, yeah, go take your statin drug and best of luck. Hopefully you don't get any major side effects. Hopefully you are the 1 out of 60 who gets benefit. Yeah, good luck with that. I mean, listen, obviously in my practice, I see people all the time with complications from statin drugs that sometimes never go away. And medical doctors are bullies. I mean, they listen, we got a 5-minute office visit. Come on in. Hey, great to see you. Here's your statin drug. Get a stress test on the way out. And, yeah, we'll see you later, for the angiogram. And I talk about all those procedures in my book, and I give the evidence. It's cardiologists. I sat in a room with 25 cardiologists, and we sat there, Ari, not talking about the latest medical literature. We talked about how we make more money. That's what we talked about, how we make more money. Doctors in general, I think, are good people. I don't want to throw everybody under the bus, but the reality is we've got loans to pay, we've got mortgages, we've got kids that need to go to college. We need to make money, and cardiology is a money factory. Conventional oncology and chemotherapy is a money factory, and there's a better way, and the world is waking up to it, which is really exciting.
Awesome. So 2 more quick questions for you. One is, well, actually, before we go to that one, if somebody comes to you who is on statin drugs, do you tell them to get off? Do you sometimes tell them to stay on, but also do lifestyle interventions? Do you have kind of a general policy on that? Or I'm just thinking for listeners to this who are maybe already on statin drugs and have been, their doctor kind of told them, yes, you need to go on statins. Statins are great. We have evidence to show that they work. And maybe now are listening and are confused about what to do. Do you have any just kind of quick words for them on?
Well, I think, you're right, Ari. There are some people that would just say, hey, you know what, keep me in the medical matrix and I'm all good. There's some people that would go in the total different direction, say, I'm not taking anything unless I'm dying. And then there's people in the middle that say, you know what, maybe I want the best of both worlds. Maybe I want to do everything you guys are talking about and I'm going to continue with the drug. I personally, in my practice, obviously people that come to see me are looking for a holistic approach. So most people are interested in getting off drugs. And I don't feel that statin drugs have any role in health. So I don't prescribe them at all, unless I've been seeing someone for a while. And once again, they're kind of in that same area, Ari, where they say, you know what, I'm doing everything you're doing, but I want to continue with my statin drug. Then I'll be okay with that. I'm not like, hey, get out of my practice, I'm not like that, but I will say I have very, very few people that are still on statin drugs. They're interested in a better way. And, for those people that come to see me, my goal is to get people off pharmaceuticals. I want them off statin drugs. I want them off blood pressure drugs. I want them off drugs for heartburn. I want them off all drugs because they're worthless. It's not that I necessarily hate pharmaceuticals just for hate's sake. They have a place in an emergency, but for people for primary prevention, they're worthless. So let's just come up with a better approach.
In the context of prevention of diseases of lifestyle.
Oh, no doubt. And I mean, listen, as far as, diseases of lifestyle is pretty much everything, right? It's heart disease, it's stroke, it's brain disease, it's autoimmune disease, it's cancer. I mean, these are all man-made diseases. These diseases were not around. They are not in native populations. Weston A. Price documented that in the 1920s, the explorers in the 1600s, 1700s, when they came across the Indians, what even modern day paleo peoples. I mean, they're just, they're not sick, like we are, and we're sick for all those reasons. And the more you modify those reasons, the better, your health is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So last question, can heart disease be reversed?
Well, most certainly. So when you talk about heart disease, obviously we talk about a lot of different things. Most commonly, you would think of coronary artery disease. Can blockages be reversed? And the answer is yes. You have to lead the right lifestyle, eat the right paleo foods. You have to get the sunshine, the sleep, the physical activity. But for example, vitamin K. Vitamin K pulls plaque out of the arteries and puts the calcium back into the bones. You can look at things like curcumin, turmeric. You can look at berberine, all these things that, if you stop the ongoing inflammatory process, well, then the body's natural response is to start healing itself. And as the body starts to heal, it would start eating away at that excess material that is being formed in the coronary arteries. But, for the most part, when people say, oh, I've got a 50% blockage here and a 30% there, and here's the angiogram, can you reverse this? I'm more interested really in saying, I'm not focused on reversing it. I just want to stop it from progressing. Because Ari, if you have a blockage of 50% and a 60% are here and a 30% are there, you can live until you're, 500 years of age. It's not going to be a problem as long as we keep it stable, where it is. Sometimes people get into the idea of intravenous chelation as a liquid Drano, and that is a fallacy. I wish it was true. I'd like to say it's true, but even the original chelators, they'll tell you it's not true. I think that, we should all detox on a daily basis, but as far as intravenous chelation and Drano, I'm not aware that there's really much in the way of, of any kind of Dranos per se. Just live the right lifestyle and you'll live a long time.
Awesome. Well, I love your message, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing it with people. I know about your book, obviously, the Paleo Cardiologist, which people can get on Amazon. And where can people find more about your work and what you do?
So my wife and I together are the Doctors Wolfson, and we have a website, thedoctorswolfson.com. Doctors is abbreviated DRS, so thedoctorswolfson.com, and you can find out information about my individual practice on there. And we're writing some blogs and trying to get all the information out there as well as we can, and just trying to make a difference. I mean, guys like you and I and others, we got a big battle to go against, because there are so many people. Obviously, I mean, you just turn on the television set and you're just inundated by pharma commercials at every opportunity, or you log onto your internet browser, whether it's Yahoo, Google, Bing, or whatever you're on, and it's all about trying to sell us prescription drugs. So we got a big battle ahead, but I think you and I, thanks to you, we got the energy to fight the good fight, if you will. And we're here for the long haul. We're here to make a difference. I'm a young father. I have a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, and my wife is pregnant and due any day now. I want to live. I don't want to die like my father did at 62. I want to live a long life, and that's what I'm all about.
Awesome. Well, beautiful message. Thank you so much for sharing it. And we're going to put links to your website and your book on the show notes page for this podcast. And thank you again. Really a pleasure to have you on, Dr. Wolfson.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Harold.